Are we live? Are we live? I think we are live. Yay, we're live! Sup Shredders! My name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP live streams. The request $6 live streams. I still haven't found an elegant way to go into those. Where for just $6 via Ko-fi, you can link in the description. You can get yourself a song reviewed live, and if we switch over to here, we have ourselves, we have ourselves Firefox here. We also can listen to stuff on Spotify, but yeah, no, we're basically here today to do stuff with with you guys, with your songs, with what you want to listen to. The audio from my microphone should be better today because I've actually tried to get it EQ'd properly for today. I forgot that when I update my plugins, that Slate Digital will reset the presets for the plugins that you use. So we end up with a situation where I had to do like a dozen videos, and I am not aware of the fact that it is actually not sounding good until I find out late. So the commissions at the moment are open as far as I'm aware. But more importantly, hopefully you're all having a good day. We're going to be just probably looking through some music news first. Looking through some music news. I'm also kind of hoping that if we do some music news, we'll just learn more about what the world's been up to, eh? So even if like, not music works. We're looking for music news. Although, what is that? Any cool stuff? So like, I don't know about you guys, but I love new music equipment. This isn't like a segue or something like that. Sup, Blue Dinner Box? Hopefully you're well. How are you doing? I don't know about you guys, but I love music equipment. I really enjoy listening to trying out new stuff, you know. And there's a lot of new technology at the moment, which is really fantastic. We're in chat mode now, I suppose. There's DJ decks that are really cool, music ensemble, some really cool home recording stuff, which is really dope. I know you guys are probably familiar with this. You guys probably watch other streamers, and they've maybe talked about stuff like this. The Helicon Go XLR, very, very good USB streaming mixer, as I understand it. It's got lots of pretty colors. When something has pretty colors, you know it's good. So that's cool. Lots of screens. So what I've noticed, I don't know about you guys if you do music, but like a lot of the latest music stuff is screens. So you'll find that they'll have little touch screens or lots of lights. Like this is a complicated looking audio monitor. Look at all these outputs and stuff like that. It's crazy, dude. Inputs left and right. So that's kind of like a big knob except Behringer's version. So that's cool. It's one of the things where like I think music has sort of gone the color of the fluoro. There's not a lot of advancements in the actual quality of it. It's often the way that it processes sound and stuff like that, you know. So I suppose if anything, it's just cool to be able to sort of look through all this and just to be able to kind of like enjoy it. Sup, who do we have here? We have we need Deepal, don't we? Who do we have here? We have Kwok Shu Ming. Sup, Kwok Shu Ming. Hopefully you're well. Welcome to the live stream. If you're wanting a song reviewed, we have to go through the link in the description. So in the description of this video, so Dr. Theo's just put a request through. So we're going to listen to Dr. Theo's track. But if you put a request through, I'll be able to listen to the song. But thank you for coming along to the live stream. And hello to you, Dr. Theo. Hopefully you're well. So we're going to check out Dr. Theo's track now. That should be good. Don't know about you guys here in New Zealand. It's just gotten school holidays, so a lot of the kids are off. they're just doing kid stuff, you know. I wouldn't know. I'm not a child. Trying to get this mic comfortable. I'm trying not to peak the mic. You know, I'm trying not to peak the mic when I talk. And it's going 50-50. So what does Theo have for us today? Dream House by Sunbather. Cool. This album is an all-time black gaze metal classic, first in a genre I listened to. While the vocals are the same shouty you'll see in other black metal songs, the guitars are strangely happy, and it's this combo that gives it such a dreamy Ascension vibe. Cool, let's do it. First track for today on Spotify, it is Death Haven. Oh, Dreamhouse Sunbather. It's cool, Dr. Theo. Sunbather is the album, not the band. Thank you, I appreciate that. And you're going to have a summer break later this year, decide to go back to school. What are you looking to study at school? Hopefully, it's exciting going back to school, eh? Put the art up on the screen for you. Listening time. I mean, the blast beats are fantastic, and I love the harmonies. I mean, the drumming is phenomenal as well. I mean, they are very dreamy harmonies, the way that those octaves cascade like that. I mean, those like triplet double kicks as well they're ferocious. Occasional little bell rides as well. It's such a relaxing track in a weird way. I mean, the vocals are visceral, but and that is the 5-minute mark of this track from Death Haven, titled Dreamhouse. I'm just going to quickly look at the chat. I listened to this whole album while high and taking a bath. It felt like a rebirth. Yeah, I can imagine that. It would have been a pretty surreal experience doing that. If I want to react their whole album, how much about donate? So I don't do album reactions in the live streams. I understand that I understand what you're saying and that you probably want to have the whole album experience. Um It'd probably be something you'd need to email me about outside of this. So if you can maybe send me an email through like the contact details on the YouTube channel, that might be good. It just might be kind of tricky for me to be able to commit to doing this in a live stream because especially with these ones, I want I want there to be like a range of songs and different people so that everyone feels like they can put a track in if they want to. You know what I mean? But thank you. I would like to listen through the album. If you just contact me via the contact details on the about page, it'd be good. Yeah. Cheers. I don't know how much it would cost. It just depends on the amount of tracks, but I'm sure we can work something out. Brad Taste in Music said he used this to sleep. I'm not surprised. I think what works with this track, in addition to what Dr. Theo's mentioned, for me, is that it's such a happy, majorish track with those distorted, kind of gritty, not gritty, kind of like crispy guitar arpeggios and lead lines there, the scale shapes used, with the bass and the drums pummeling it underneath. But it's like a weird kind of relaxed because of the tones of those triads. I think that if you'd had any harsh edges, it would have just been a little bit too much, but we didn't have that here. I think that the vocals, in addition to that, have this kind of white noises element where, like, I couldn't really hear what they were saying or distinguish a lot of the words or anything like that. But so I think that's part of why we say it's good for sleeping, because often you can use white noise to sleep, right? So if you have really kind of happy, cheery music in the background, even if it's heavy, the white noise is kind of like a continuant to that or an additive to that in a way that I think is very positive. It's a great vocal performance, though. Like, the second thing I appreciate is that across the board, the various guitar, bass, especially the drums are absolutely phenomenal there. A lot of really incredible kick patterns with those really fast sort of machine gun triplets there, the blast beats, the cymbal patterns with the ride bells. It's a lot of really cool stuff is going on within it from an instrumental performance perspective. But it's also that has continued throughout the entirety of the 5 minutes so far, and I presume the rest of the 9 minutes there. The song is about alcoholism, referring to a bitter red liquid that gives rebirth of mutual love. Thank you, Dr. Theo. I appreciate that. Man, it's heavy stuff. It is really heavy stuff. I think the tone of the vocals is a final note. I think it's suitable for the subject matter that we're discussing there, but I also think that alcoholism, it's a little bit more nuanced than simply it bad because it's an addiction. Like, it's why it's so hard for a lot of people to kick. It's a mixed bittersweet thing. You know, that feeling you get when you're drunk can be intoxicating for people. So I think that the actual chord choices, the use of triads and arpeggios here with that majorish vibe, is a smart idea in that regard. And I think that the velocity and the vicious nature of the vocals suits both. They click well together. It's just a really tight instrumental performance across the board there with a lot of different concepts and ideas that meld effortlessly to one another in a very mesmerizing way, with a great sort of overall theme and attention and direction there, with the actual vocals and instrumental parts being well connected. So thank you to Dr. Theo for putting that through. I appreciate it. It also mentions Manhattan. Maybe it's the place where he thinks about where he can return to his booze. Or maybe it's just a place he wants to go but can't because it's so expensive. Potentially. I think that there is a bit of nostalgia there, potentially, that he's exploring, and maybe they are interconnected like that. But either way, it's a phenomenal track, and thank you for sharing it. I'm sure the remaining 4 minutes 10 is just as good as the first 5. So, what do we have next? We have a song from Dinnerhay. Thank you to Dinnerhay for your request. It's great to be hearing some interesting music, as per usual, to be fair. What does Dinnerhay have for us today? Hey, we have Taylor Swift. It also says about his leather gloves, which he said is meant to represent the barrier between him and the one he loves, ending the song with I Want to Dream with You. I do get the feeling that it's like a fantasy kind of inner like thought process kind of thing where he's screaming it out, but the feelings are overwhelming. And the dream is that major component to the harmony there. I feel like there's positive intention. He's just in a kind of a bit of a dark place. It's crazy that people can listen to metal in order to be able to sleep, right? But thank you to Dr. Theo for that track, and thank you to Dinnerhay for this one. This is August from Taylor Swift. Very different track. I like the unison between the kicks and Taylor's voice as a part of this.
Wishing I could write my name on it. Will you call when you're back at school? I remember thinking I had you, but I can see it's lost in the memory. August slipped away into a moment in time.
It's very quick, isn't it? Just goes from bit to bit. It's very efficient.
And I can see us twisted in bed sheets. August sipped away like a bottle of wine, 'cause you were never mine.
And the sound design is fantastic.
Back when we were still changing for the better, wanting was enough. For me it was enough to live for the hope of it all. Cancel plans just in case you call and say meet me behind the mall. So much for summer love and saying us, 'cause you weren't mine to lose. You weren't mine to lose. No.
'Cause you weren't mine to lose, you weren't mine to lose, no.
I can see us lost in the memory. August slipped away into a moment in time, 'cause it was never mine.
What are we gonna do with the rest of the song though? Because I feel like we've been very, like, to the point so far.
Remember when I pulled up and said get in the car, and then cancel my plans just in case you call. Back when I was living for the hope of it all, for the hope of it all. Meet me behind the mall.
And the panning of the vocals on the side there with the saxophone on the side?
When I pulled up and said, get in the car, and then get to my plans just in case you call. Like when I was living for the hope of it all. For the hope of it all. For the hope of it
I mean, there's so many instrumental layers there, it's exquisite. And just a really classy fade out there at the end with the volume. Just being able to appreciate the individual components as they go out one at a time there. I think that was great. It was nice to use that real estate for that. So that was Taylor Swift, that tracked August. Blue Dinner Box says, for me, it's the best song to listen in August, especially when it came out, August 2020. Yeah, wasn't that a bit of a fever dream, right? That was a crazy time. I think it was a nice time for that song to come out, to be honest. A nice sort of like breezy, carefree track like this. Dr. Theo says, fun fact, Sunbather's album cover was used in Apple iOS 7 ad campaign. That's cool. I dig that Apple was open to that. That's great. And then Blue Dinner Box also says, also the lyrics is kind of questionable, but she made it sound very beautiful somehow. Yeah, I can get behind that. So I think that this track is about someone like initially thinking they had these dreams and fantasies related to someone, and they kind of missed how easy things used to be when they were younger, but now they just kind of realized, oh, it was a temporary thing. It wasn't actually what it seemed. And like just how vivid that like impulse can be to want to sort of like kind of anchor and associate yourself with someone. Wanting was enough for me. It was enough to live for the hope of it all. Just that was earlier on, back when we were changing for the better. So back when they were growing up, they used to maybe be a little more laissez-faire, but now it's more a case of can be more sort of a realist about it, but more grounded there for the hope of it all. It's interesting. There's a sense of nostalgia to it. So I think part of what I appreciate about this is just how kind of sometimes I've heard some songs from Taylor Swift, and you can tell there's definitely been a lot of effort to make her vocals kind of fit into some of the more synthetic elements of the piece. Not with like tuning, because she can sing, but it's just like you can tell there's like effects change and processing and stuff out there. And a lot of this seems to be a little bit more of kind of like an acoustic performance. Like we're trying to stay grounded and have the vocals sound like that. There's a lot of really cool ideas here. There's double tracking for a bit more kind of size in the mix, but a lot of what's really dope about this track is when you just hear Taylor by themselves, regardless of what's happening in the rest of the stereo field. And I do think that part of why this track is beautiful, as Blue Dinner Box mentions, is because of that. So I feel like this is probably one of my favorite songs from Taylor in that regard. Just as well as basically the boy cheated and he had to apologize to his girlfriend. Another song. Damn. Brutal. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, you see Twisted and Bear cheats, but it was not mine, etc. I can understand what you're talking about there to an extent. I can follow along to that. You weren't mine to lose. You weren't mine to lose. No, that makes sense. Lyrically, that makes sense. Just the amount of different instrumental components, like the layers here.
is lost in the memory, 'cause it was never mine.
And like the subtle things like the little ghost note snare rolls and the strum guitars on one side of the stereo field and the saxophone on the other, and all these wonderful little intricacies there are just absolutely spectacular. Like it's the depth and the consideration there to make a thick, full sounding piece without any one track part being too dominant unless it was a deliberate decision.
When you back it,
Because like the actual harmonies and bass lines and chord progressions through in this aren't necessarily super complicated. It's just how we articulate the overall concept through the variety of different bits and pieces kind of poking their heads out of the woodwork when they need to. There's like there's several cute little guitar lines alone that are playing up in the high register, or there's like little kind of like ping pong delay-ish parts there on the left and then the right side. Again, a really soft saxophone on the left there for a little bit of romanticism there. Nice use of the lower part of the frequency spectrum or their range as well to not be too kind of perky. And it's to the end, you have this flurry, this phenomenal like depth to the track because of the side, like the strings, the expression there that just kind of released there is wonderful, and how we're almost getting all our thoughts out for the music to explode around us and then to come down to come out as it does with the fade out, the production. But just generally, I think it's this layering that makes this track special, the choice of instruments there, and knowing how to get those all together in a way where there's no sort of like weirdness with it. Like that's just very, very, very classy. And the final part is the studio production there. It's how, with all these different kind of like key or guitar or bass or drum or saxophone or strings or anything like that, it's the way that we managed to mix and level them in a stereo field as well as in the frequency spectrum with no weird resonant frequencies. And just with there don't be dynamic range as well and not being too squeezed. It's just a fantastic effort. And Blue Dinner Box says this album came out in a perfect time with a perfect style. I'd have to agree, it's a very, very good effort. Thank you for sharing this track. I appreciate it. That was or Taylor Swift with August. And apparently we have already requested. Thank you for your request there. We shall have a listen through this track now. So what do we have here? Ko-Fi supporter. Thank you. We have Ko-Fi supporter. I'm assuming that we have individual here, and I'm just going to go to DeepAL just so that I remember the translation. Here we go. Kwok Shu Ming. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Kwok Shu Ming. And what does Kwok Shu Ming have for us today? Thank you for your donation. NMIXX High Horse. Thank you for your request. So we're going to put that here. And then we are going to play the track for you. And we'll go from there. So hang on. Did we want YouTube or Spotify? Just to confirm. I just can't tell which one it is. Once we know, we'll be able to get that sorted for you. So yeah, it's been it's crazy to think that Taylor's just had that kind of insight with her music. That they've known. Like how many songs has Taylor Swift put out at this point? How many songs has Taylor Swift put out at this point? Because for her discography to be consistent enough for the fan base that they have is pretty phenomenal. Thank you. We'll find her on Spotify. Let's do it. Yeah, I'd say that it'd be an incredible amount. But this is Kwok Shu Ming with NMIXX High Horse. Let's go. Let's do it. Get that up on the screen. Awesome. Oh, Spotify, okay. YouTube only live stage. Oh, okay.
High horse, I just can't take it no more. I'm lost and found.
Oh, great switch up there.
No
I mean, this
They can tell you what you are if you already know who you are. I will love you when all is gone.
like their vocal technique is sensational. They're incredible singers. Like I love the slight little vibratos and everything like that. Just the nuance is appreciated.
So let's ride to the front line. 결소했나 가장 끝까지. 너와 더 멀리. To end up where we're meant to be. So let's ride to the front line. 익숙한 곳을 벗어나 나와 있을게. 그 끈적 없는 곳까지.
I love the transfer there.
Heartbreak, 오늘도 웅크렸던 every morning. Run away, do it my way. Sick of that horse, our minds don't work like that.
So thank you, Kwok Shuming, for sending through this track from NMIXX High Horse. Their live is better. Ah, YouTube only live stage. Fair. I'm glad that we've heard their album version though. It's good to be able to hear their music by itself. So that was phenomenal though. So I think this track is about accepting that we should not need to be held to like this unrealistic standard. That everyone else is like, because our minds don't work like theirs, so we're gonna just do what we need to do in order to be who we need to be. We don't want to sort of like bother with their kind of BS, and we're just trying to sort of make our way forward, get to the front lines, and be who we're meant to be, etc. And just get through every day as the best you can. And so I think that is handled well there. The vocals are one of the things I really appreciated. Like they're a phenomenal singer, as I mentioned halfway through. Effortless performance on the mic, very comfortable within their head and chest voice. There is lovely legato and vibrato passages there. We know how to express in a way that makes sense, not just for the actual track and the overall kind of like feeling behind it. We also know how to adjust for the mood of the piece. Like there were different chapters within this track. They weren't the same kind of sort of like chord progression or bass line the entire time. And so I feel like we typically were able to sort of like match those whenever we needed to in a way that was very sort of impressive and professional. And I think another thing I appreciate about this track is the fact that structurally there are different moods. In addition to not just the vocals communicating that, it's also the fact that we are either high or we're going through those lows. So we start off with those kind of wispy piano parts there, some interesting right-hand melodies, and we have the almost a balladesque format where the vocals kind of like sort of like sing out on top of it. And there's like lovely use of those kind of like basses underneath that are quite subtle. And then of course the drums with the acoustic drum kit, the rides, etc., adding a great sense of the sort of room sound there. And then you have this almost sort of future bassist part with these hypnotic synth pads there, and we explore the upper range of our vocal parts, and we just Everything goes up together, and we have extensions, and there's a bit of sophistication with the expression there in regards to the harmonies. And then we kind of go off of the Phrygian mode here as a final sort of like turn here where we go back to those rides. It gets a bit more kind of sad, heartbreak every morning, and you have that minor key match that. So I think structurally as well, it's really interesting how we've done this. It's very mature songwriting in a way that is kind of literal, but it does work well for the mood and makes a song just more interesting when you're not too generic with that approach. I think as a final note, the studio production is commercial grade. You can hear the vocals so clearly within the mix, but you can also hear everything else going on. There's great use of filtering occasionally, just to kind of make things a bit more sort of subtle. We explore dynamic range well. There's obvious gluing to the master chain of it. The tracks sound like they match together, and there's not a huge amount of kind of like, you can tell when things are pushed, but like music parts of the track can also breathe there. It doesn't sound squashed. The music surrounds you in the headphones in lots of different places, and it grows and adjusts over time. Great use of sort of like filters to allow things to niche. And yeah, just honestly nice and loud without pumping. Just a really great first impression to NMIXX. So thank you to Kwok Shu Ming for your request. I had a great time with it. The song is easy to listen than others. Good to know. I mean, I had a great time listening. That was awesome. So I imagine that if that's the state of their first track, is this the first track off? This is one of the tracks off of the album, or like, anyways, it's very, very, very good either way. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So that's track 3 for today. Yeah, that's our tracks done. So we've done 3 so far. That's good. I've enjoyed that. It's been good to listen through some songs. I think that's the queue. We're 0 on the queue at the moment. I don't mind if it's a quieter day today. The last few weeks have been pretty wild. I've noticed that this is very small. Oh, it definitely can be bigger. Oh, it can be bigger. Sorry. It's okay, Jacob. How you doing? You all right? I'm not trying to rush you. It's not. I'm not like leaving now. I was gonna look through some more music news, but yeah, hopefully you're well. Hopefully you're doing okay. In fact, I'll look through some music news anyways, because we never actually did it. I'm happy to listen to more tracks, so don't worry. It's just keeping on top of stuff, eh? Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't really like pay too much attention to the news because the news makes me feel very tired. I don't know if that's the same for you guys. Without getting into like the politics or anything like that, it's just a bit tiring. Benson Boone brings out Queen's Brian May for Bohemian Rhapsody at Coachella. Dude, that guy is stacked. Look at his biceps, man. He's got his vein there, dude. And there's a lady playing the lead guitar behind him. That's a lead guitar behind it. That's cool, man. Torino and Young Miko meet up in Puerto Rico and La City. Cool. My Chemical Romance dig up real life tracks. Cool. So there's links in the description, Harshit. Feel free to check out the link and submit there. More than welcome to. I used to have it here. I don't know if you guys can see that. So if you can see that. I used to have the links in the description here, but then I realized it went over the album art. So yeah, it's in the description. And it's just $6 a track. So it's chill. Yeah. Hopefully you're well. Hopefully you're having a good day. Thanks for coming along. Remember that album Lana Del Rey said was coming soon? Well, forget the release date and title. Okay. I'm Charlie Crockett and Nolene. Nick Drake, Kendrick Lamar and Caesar are in the mood for a Love and New Luther video. Watch Marina Surf Quintissimo in her glamorous new video. Great. Good for them, man. Good for them. The C word is such a tricky one. It's crazy that that's the worst one. Like, I'm not going to say it on here because I don't know if I can get away with that without there being issues. And I just don't think it's appropriate anyways or necessary. But that's like, that is the big word, you know. That's the big word. This girl group like 6 solo singer together. That's cool. See, I like it when people do solo work and they can work as a group. Um, is that song, is High Horse your favorite song? Or is there another one that you like more? Because I thought it was great, the different chapters and moods that they had within that. I thought that was really cool. Oh, crazy. So this is actually just kind of interesting, I suppose. I can't read all of it because I don't have a subscription to this. Because can you possibly imagine having subscriptions to like 10 different newspapers? I can't. I can't imagine that. That would be quite a lot to deal with for me. I have enough of a difficult time having a subscription to one newspaper, though I probably should. I probably should support the newspapers because it's where a lot of the online sites get the news from, you know. A Minecraft movie director calls out weird police response to loud audiences. It's hilarious. While movie theaters have issued warnings to people coming to see the film and have gone so far as to call the police during some screenings, Jared Hess sees the silly response to the film as a success. Now that's kind of wild. Though to be fair, I remember when I was a young lad and you got the crap kicked out of you if you were too loud in the movie theater. Now I wouldn't know because I was a good lad and I was quiet. But yeah. I mean, unless that's like laughing, right? You know, it's a bit sad if people are laughing and they're calling the police. You know, I'd get it if they were like doing all sorts of weird stuff, you know. Not that I'm the laughter police, right? Okay, so I don't want to. Actually, you know what? Let's just pause on this site. Yeah, I would assume it'd be lots of kids, but then it's also a kids movie. Like, but let's just not like sugarcoat it. All right, Minecraft is not like Elden Ring or like it's not Elden Ring or like a serious kind of crazy game. Minecraft is a game where you have like, I don't know, like you build stuff with squares and there's a lot of lore to it. But I suppose the best way to say it without sounding like an idiot on my part is that you typically have kids. The target audience is kids. The target audience is kids. It seems like it's either Roblox or Minecraft. Like I've been teaching music for a while, and like I remember when Undertale was huge, and you'd have kids that played Undertale, even though there's some really dark stuff in Undertale, right? But like it's either Roblox where like they get kids to make video games, which is pretty wild. Like I think Roblox is an interesting thing because you can make video games in it, and like you get paid if you make the video game, depending. Oh, dude. Yeah, I used to work with kids who played Undertale back in the day because it was so massive. I just think a lot of kids, they didn't understand the heavy stuff. They just saw sounds and like they saw their favorite YouTubers playing it and they were like, that's the game I want to play. I mean, I didn't have an issue with it. I mean, I still have to get around to playing Undertale. But to be fair, like I've watched enough people play it to the point where I'm not necessarily sure if I'd have a unique experience. For me, I'm a masochist. I love playing difficult video games. And so for me, you get the most difficulty arguably from like, you know, game ending everyone, you know. There are only two types of people who play MC, engineers and kids. Yeah, I could get behind that. Yeah, I could get behind that. That makes sense to me. Engineers, like you can do coding and stuff in Minecraft, can't you? You hear people who have like scripts and they have all sorts of really cool stuff going on there. I used to have mates who would just spend all weekend on Minecraft and they'd like be making these massive monolithic structures. And that was just them. But I suppose, yeah, I would get to it from the perspective of like, I'd imagine it was kids making a lot of noise. You'd hope so, but also who am I to judge, right? Kids will be kids. As long as they're not throwing poop on the walls, I think that's the main thing, you know. You can tell I've never had kids because I'm saying that the kids throw their poop on the wall. Kids are cool, man. I love yeah, they build those CPUs in Minecraft. Absolutely. Yeah. By the way, welcome to the live stream, Pepe. Hopefully you're well. So this next track is from Jacob. Jacob, good. So what does Jacob have for us today? Jacob has Wukong by I'm gonna translate that in a moment. Oh, actually, hang on. What am I doing? This is very silly. This is starting to annoy me a little bit. This is annoying me. Hang on. Okay. Then go here. And then go. There we go. Did it. Good. Sorry, guys. Just trying to figure out how life works. Given how Wukong has recently been in the pop culture limelight due to the Chinese game Black Myth Wukong, time to pull this classic competition song written by the singer out of nowhere. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's do it. So, yeah, we go. Oh, no, I'll keep that there so I can keep track of music news. We'll see how we go. But thank you, Jacob, for this. There we are. Get theater mode on. It's very quiet. There we go. Glad we caught that. I said I was going to translate it, eh? Who is this? Deep L. I'll let you guys listen to it. Tai Swin? Wow. 肝肠寸断，幻世当空，恩怨休怀，舍吾黎明，六尘不改，且怒且悲且狂哉，是人是鬼是妖怪，不过是心有魔债。 Great entrance from the drums. Got chills, man. Oh, the guitar solo, man. Nice transfer, dude. It's the stage presence, you know. Oh, and that dynamic range, dude, that control. That was fantastic. Sup, Taper? Welcome to the live stream. Hopefully you're well. Sup, Taper. Oh, nope, it's not going to allow me to do it. My friends asked me to play Wukong. Well, hopefully you can play Wukong, Pepe. It's a fantastic game. Jacob, good with lyrics. What use do I have of this golden rod? What use I have of my powers if the world suffers? So thank you for that context, Jacob. Now, so I want to talk about this track, which is titled Wukong by, if I'm not mistaken, Tai Suin. If I'm not mistaken, hopefully that's close to how you pronounce that. I do think that he sells that tremendously well. This concept of like, what good are my powers as this individual, as this sort of like this super, you know, this what's the point if I'm not actually making things better on a net basis or like an overall. And I think that there's a sense of him questioning himself, but also proclaiming it at points. There's a phenomenal charisma to this musician, this vocalist on stage, the way they carry themselves. It's just absolutely tremendous. And I don't know how they could have possibly improved this performance from an actual performative standpoint. That the theater of it, especially with the orchestral backing, like the woodwinds, the guitar and bass and drums coming in a later stage as well. There's just so much cool stuff to appreciate. But the focal point, even in the guitar solo, to be fair, we didn't see the guitarist play the solo. But even in that guitar solo section, they were still kind of waiting there for their point, their time, their opportunity to come back in. And it was very, very, very good. So I feel like, and just in terms of actual vocal technique there, how comfortable we are in a hidden chest voice, the dynamics of the expression of stuff, as well as our ability to know to go up and down with the music and to integrate with that. It's just really positive. And we had some really compelling, interesting sort of like transfers between notes and melodies as well. So really, really phenomenal performance on stage. But it's also just the interesting stuff, like the wonderful piano arpeggios that are going on the sides of the stereo field, like from the beginning. Like if we go back to the start here, like those are really unusual chords there. There is a sense of questioning because of the triad choices they have there. It's not just happy or sad, there's emotional sophistication, there's nuance there. And what's so cool about that is that that's kind of indicating or referring to or hinting to what we're discussing in the song. And so the piano tells you that before we even get there. And it's that kind of unison, the kind of focus that we really need in a piece like this to make it an all-rounder. And as we move forward, we allow more space for the piano to come in alongside the vocals. There are some cool responses from the flutes later on with some wonderful legato kind of trilled parts. The guitar solo is a fantastic addition, simply as like a counterpoint to a lot of what's going on beforehand there, and it has its own voice and direction in the track. But I think the piano is one of my favorite parts within the song because of the characterization it presents almost immediately. I think, like, as a final point, it's not just the piano, it's actually how everything within the song is structured. It's actually just the way that it is presented and put together, because you have a piece where they did not sleep on the way it transferred. It was 3 minutes of just so much really cool stuff going on, from the mixture of different drum, bass, guitar, woodwind elements there. What other instruments do we have? We had distorted elements as well with the keys being fantastic accompaniment the whole way through, regardless of the mood and temperament. And what's kind of wild about the structure is that we allowed ourselves, from a compositional perspective, to not only have the vocals as the focal point, but we also allowed the other parts of the mix to have their own little solo and lead sections, whether they're call and responses or just distinct enough harmonically or melodically to be able to hear both at the same time and for it not to overcomplicate. So, yeah, just it's incredible, dude. I love the way that everything has been done here. They're fantastic musicians, whilst also allowing sort of like mainstay for this to be here. I just think it's a great composition and performance with a really interesting story that's communicated well from the singer. And thank you to Jacob for putting this track forward. I really appreciated being able to hear it. I'm always keen to hear more from Wukong. The story, at least the one I've heard from like the video games, as well as some of the music that we've heard within these reviews, has been tremendous. I have a lot of love for the way that things are done there. So now the chairs. Where are the chairs, Pepe, Julian, Onziema? Do you mean the people who are performing alongside it? Or do you mean their chairs? Do you mean the literal chairs that they're sitting on? Because I have some pretty crazy chairs, to be fair. You'd need to have comfy chairs if you're doing a competition like this, wouldn't you? You could not get away with having an uncomfy chair. You would need your butt to be comfy. Yeah, I was thinking as such. I couldn't imagine it otherwise. An instrumental look at a work in progress. Well, I'm keen to hear this, Taper. Let's go. Let's do it. What do we got? So I think this might be an original, if I'm not mistaken. So this is cool. This is quite a lot of views. After the Storm. This is a phenomenal amount of attention, getting 109k views. Very good. Very good. Congratulations on that attention. We're going to listen through this track here, After the Storm. Let's do it. Let's go. I like how the guitars are rising like that. I mean, those machine gun kicks are ridiculous. I mean, for it just to be that bass with that distortion on it with those kicks there, for that to be ruthless as it is. I mean, are they gravity blasts? And back we go. I just love how we're going between normal and halftime as well. I just realized as well, you guys can't see the title of the song. This is called After the Storm. It's so small on this for some reason. And just with the strings, the 64ths, dude. Or the 30-second triplets. Tremendous. That was fascinating. So that was a really good first impression to this instrumental. I think I've reviewed Taper's work before. I'm just gonna like quickly Google that to double check. I'm pretty sure I've listened to Taper before. Let me just check. No, I haven't. I haven't got that in here. Oh no, have I not listened to Taper before? I'm looking at my like playlist on YouTube. I mustn't. It's okay, Taper. It's all right. It'll be you can play back if you want. So I'm going to talk about what I appreciate about this track because there's no complaints on my end about it. I think it's a really fascinating song for several reasons. One, as an instrumental, it works because this track after the song kind of expects you to figure out what it wants by yourself. And the way that it just pummels you, it just smacks the crap out of you over repeatedly with the mixture of gravity blasts, the 64th or 32nd triplet kicks there, the ferocity and velocity of the bass tone with that distortion on it in that lower end, contrasting really neatly with the held strings there and the upper section there and those wonderful guitar leads there with that extended solo section a bit later on. It's just really great use of 4 minutes, but more importantly, to kind of stick with the main point I want to make, it sounds like stuff has really you try overcoming a trial of some sort of massive challenge there, just being beaten down by an overlord or something like that, and you are still needing to come to terms with the consequences of the battle and the aftermath. It's really neat, and I got that just from the music there. The second thing I appreciate is that not only does it communicate what it is about without needing a word spoken, it's also just the really phenomenal use of rhythm within this track. So, yeah, we have all sorts of 8th and 16th patterns in music, but this one encourages us to explore the more extreme stuff with like the 32nd and 64th notes. And you don't really get those that often in music. A lot of stuff is just fast enough that 16ths is like all good. And a lot of the stuff you'll find with metal is like, I don't know, maybe it's getting into that later stage where it's like, I'm trying to think of the word for it. Like at a higher tempo, 16s are quick, but the moment you get into machine gun stuff, like with the kicks like brrr, and like the bouncy kind of the gravity blast rolls on the snare, it's overwhelming, and that creates a sense of you being obliterated by the music, but it also infers more about the mood. It's not just that the overall kind of theme of the music, the melodic and harmonic devices there illustrate that. It's also just what the sounds are like and how they kind of attack you like that. It's visceral because it's trying to sort of shove that down your throat. It's not giving you a chance to really consider it. So I feel that it's very just the actual intricacy and the attention to detail with those patterns on the drum kit alone is something to celebrate there. But it's also the use of those repeated sub drops there and how the bass tone with the kind of the really gross kind of, not in a good way, kind of gross, just a filthy tone to it, just kind of lumbers and sort of festers and it kind of slides around the place. It's gritty and it weighs you down. And there's those parts where like the strings come in over top of the really quick 64th kicks where it's like it's almost like a release, but then we switch it back and we come down to halftime and normal time. So it's not just that rhythmically with the kit it's fantastic, it's that the other components and instruments within it, they kind of respect that movement there from both the bass and the drums and how intertwined they are. And you get range in a song from that. You just get a really intriguing journey throughout this piece because we're trying to have several different kind of ideas that we go between, but we also have an understanding of when it is too much to mess around with the various quote unquote feels of like, again, like halftime, double time, and normal. When to be more extreme and when to kind of take it back and to allow space for a bit of breathing room without it being too much so that it sticks with the original kind of like intention of it. So I think ultimately it's a really well produced track, which I like. I love it. I think it's a really great direction to go in. I look forward to there being more music like this, and I wish Taper all the best, as I think it's a really, like we mentioned that this is an instrumental look at a work in progress. I think it's a great step in the right direction so far. So well done. Thank you for that. Really cool music, man. And thank you, Pepe, Julian, Onziema, and Taper. You're welcome. I appreciate that. It's good to hear music. It's good to hear original music. It's great to hear it both because not that I want to find fault from it, but if someone sends a track through and there's just like a little thing, that I can help out with, and that kind of like just assists them. Like, like it's how when you're working on a song, you just kind of get kind of in your lane and you're kind of like, hey, I like this one. And that's probably the reason why you're here in the first place, Taper, is to talk to people like myself and other reviewers and whatever about your music. But I just appreciate that. It helps. I think that everyone should like try and like get feedback on their music regardless of who you are. Like for me personally, I try to get feedback on some of the music I make as well because it's good to get your world expanded and to kind of make sure you're not missing anything. But this next track is from Jacob. Thank you to Jacob. I think it's the second request from today, which will be good. And this is When the World Caves In from Matt. Let's do it.
My feet are aching and your back is pretty tired, and we've drunk a couple bottles, babe, and set our grief aside.
Very different vibe.
The paper says it's doomsday, the button has been pressed, we're gonna nuke each other up, boys, till old Satan stands impressed. And here it is, our final night alive, and as the earth burns to the ground, oh girl, it's you that I lie with.
It's wonderful. I love the sound design. The way things come in on different sides of the stereo field is just tremendous, dude.
You put your finest suit on.
Oh no, come on.
My fingernails. Oh, we're going out in style, babe, and everything's on sale. We creep up on extinction. I pull your arms right in. I weep and say goodnight, love, while my organs pack it in. And here it is, our final night alive, and as the earth burns to the ground, oh God, it's you that I lie with.
It's the unison with the organ that makes it special there, I think. And the continued development of those leads on the sides.
As the world caves in.
So this is a really interesting track from Matt Maltese. I've never heard of them before, but this is like some really pretty music. I wish you wouldn't. Hang on. Oh, you have to go down a little bit. Okay, cool. Thank you. So this is Matt Maltese with When the World Caves In. And so I assume reading the lyrics, which are in English to be fair, that this is about someone realizing that this is the last night that they're alive and having to sort of come to terms with that and looking at that person that they're with and those last sort of like really kind of like sort of like those last moments, those last intimate little like parts of their lives. I don't know why words are difficult for me today. And there's a phenomenal sense of romanticism to this track there. I love the you can just get the kind of crooner kind of mindset, the approach from Matt as we listen through this, the entire band behind him as he sings on stage there, just really pouring his heart out into the song. There's a great attention to detail in regards to the expression of it. We know when to be a little bit more sort of like vulnerable there, a little bit quieter there to kind of sell the words and the mood a bit more. You can kind of imagine, especially at the start,
Back is pretty tired.
now with the piano accompaniment, you can kind of hear and kind of imagine how you might like talk to someone that you are in love with at that point in time. It sounds kind of reasonable for that context. And like when we get to the chorus, we're really belting it out. We're kind of calling over that noise, that kind of realization there. And I love that contrast there, but also the fact that we just so effortlessly navigate all of that with just fantastic vocal technique in a way that seems very sincere and authentic and just really well considered. So there's a polish there that I appreciate. It's also again just the way that we kind of have just I suppose having unique subject matter isn't necessarily enough of a thing that for me personally say, hey, this is something I like about it. I mean, I haven't heard a track about someone sort of like talking about Doomsday like this. You've got the album art up on the screen here. It's kind of like with the state of the world at the moment, you can kind of imagine why it might be relevant. But just almost the way that the music, Kim Jong Un's favorite song, potentially, the way that we almost have like we have a major feel across the song. It's a very kind of vintage feel as well with the use of the organs and the keys and the way it's done. Like, what instruments do we have within this? It reminds me a lot of Radiohead. So I'm wondering if that's maybe one of the reasons how you got onto it, Jacob. It does remind me a lot of Radiohead, the style of this. Just a different kind of vocal style, I suppose. But just the actual kind of guitar parts behind it, the cascading keys there, the organ kind of backing things up, the ride focus there. It's almost like we're dancing our way through Armageddon. And it's got like tones of music written from like the 40s and 50s, that kind of grandiose scale to it. And it's just weird to have like a happy song talking about this kind of stuff. I like the juxtaposition between the actual like the story and the mood of it. Like if you heard the song without it, you might sound like you were losing something a little bit, but it wouldn't necessarily. I mean, like it would kind of illustrate it, I suppose. It kind of sounds like a sad love song, but it's just interesting how they relate. I think the third thing I appreciate about this track is the way that the track just continues to build as you go further and further through it. So at the beginning, again, you have like the keys and the vocals. And then as you go through it, you add more instruments again, like the bass and the drums there. And you have those, again, like the oscillating kind of like organs and like guitars there with a bit of kind of a warble and vibrato to it. And it's just really compelling because it almost seems like we never run out of stuff to appreciate. And they're aware of the fact that we cannot have too much of the same thing, even if the chord progressions or bass lines are similar. And there's dynamic range to it. And we do go back to we have some unconventional parallel major to minor chords. Kim Knox are romantic. Absolutely. I feel you on that, man. And again, it's just the way that we add extra kind of lead like guitar parts on the side there to kind of spice it up. They're fundamental things, but you just cannot take for granted that people are going to do those things. with music nowadays. There's almost like a phobia in some musicians, I think, of like having too much, as if it kind of distracts from the main hook lines. But it just a natural. There's a reason why their music was so popular.
And as the earth turns
It's and you can like hear those lead guitar parts on the side there. The stereo field is explored there, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you get to the end. It does follow that ballad format, and it's also, I think, recorded in a way and produced in a way where it's not sounding super clean. Like you can tell that everything's recorded acoustically. They're not trying to sterilize it or make it too kind of like sort of like prissy. They're trying, I think, to capture the essence of a lot of music recorded between like the 40s, 50s, 60s, etc. Apply it towards this day and age where I think back in the 40s, to be fair, and the 50s, there was concern of there being nuclear war. And that's honestly never gone away. So I think that's the era of the recording, the style of it kind of works well for the subject, for the genre, and it's applicable nowadays as well. And it's just really cool stuff, man. So great songwriter. I love the actual way that we communicate with the audience as well across the board on the mic, and it's just also the way that the theme overall there, it's just so gentle and caring and loving that it almost defeats the point of the, like, it doesn't connect with the nuclear part, but it's like an interesting adjustment to that in a way that's memorable. So thank you to Jacob for that piece. There's a lot of other stuff I appreciated as well. It's just I'd be talking for quite a bit if I had to go through all of that. And I'm not sure if people would be super keen for that. My Man Romantic with Rocket. I suppose so. Honestly, like I lose track of like the North Korean stuff. You hear that like the daughter of the old guy that used to run it is worse than like the current leader. Like the daughter is apparently far less patient and like unforgiving. And that's kind of scary, you know, when you think about it. Like the last thing you'd want is someone in like control, who's arguably even more dangerous than they currently are. But yeah, I feel like that's honestly maybe a good point to take a break today. I'm not sure. I think that's the end of the queue. We listened to some really good songs, and I think that what I need to do over the week now that I've got a bit more spare time is maybe look into doing some music reviews, especially now that my microphone is working properly and I have my EQ set up and it's not going to be an issue. There's not many other updates to really do. It's yeah, not really any other updates to do. Hopefully the mic audio has been okay today. I'm kind of reviewing a few of the things I do with my videos as well because I want to make them better. Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate that. I'm off again. I'm off work for a bit, so like not this stuff, but like lesson work for a bit. You're welcome, man. It's good. Just a bit of a shorter one today, but what I will note is that there's been talking today. And just you know, like I know it kind of seems like I'm pandering. I'm not. I genuinely appreciate being able to talk to people. My partner watches streamers, and they sometimes just ignore the chat. They ignore people who are talking to them when they do stuff, and that it kind of seems like a bit of a nightmare for me, to an extent, because like these people are just coming to sort of hang out and just like do stuff, right? And now, regardless of whether or not you request a track, you're welcome to sort of like spend time here. And it's just I'm glad that I have people to talk to. So thank you for coming along, regardless of whether you put a request through or not. And also thank you to those who put through a request. I suppose what we'll do just for another few minutes is just to double check that we haven't missed any music news. And in either way, I think that'll be a good place to kind of like sort of pause for today. You guys got anything on for the weekend? Up to anything exciting? Holy crap. Dude. Sabrina Carpenter's track Espresso is a year old. Espresso from Sabrina Carpenter is a year old now. The 1 year anniversary. That's wild, dude. That has flown by, hasn't it? It's crazy, dude. No, there's not really a lot of interesting music news. Like, I'm sure there is. Maybe I'm just biased. Justin Bieber publicly tells fans, don't waste your money on his brand, Drew House. Damn, that's brutal. Yeah. You're excited about the opening stock market next Monday. Yeah, it's just been a week. It's just been a week, hasn't it? It's just been a week of craziness, dude. Like, I don't even know where to begin with that. I know enough about the stock market to be dangerous. Maroon 5 scared shitless Adam Levine shares Paul McCartney's brutal reaction to Beatles cover. Hopefully you get some good deals if it decides to tank. I would imagine that there's just enough. There is enough uncertainty that it will probably go to bonds, but I don't know. Not that I'd even dream of giving financial advice, but clearly not financial advice. I don't know why you would do a cover of the Beatles. I don't know why you would. They're still alive. Like, why would you risk doing a cover of the Beatles when you were that kind of like, at that point? It's just seeming like you're needing to kind of grasp. Fair. Fair. Yeah, it's tricky. Some people think it's going to go up, and some people think it's going to go down. We will see on Monday. In the meantime, us mere mortals, we gamble and we rely on fundamentals when they exist. And we just go from there. But yeah, honestly, I think we're good. So yeah, we're probably finishing up for today. So thank you to Dr. Theo, Dinahay, Kwok Shu Ming, Taper, as well as Jacob Good Again. Thank you for all of your requests and reviews. Appreciate being able to listen through your music. We will probably do one of these again next weekend. I think I need to remember to schedule the live stream on Discord for next weekend. But we'll do that. I don't know why it said chuckles, because I was clearly going, Okay, Ed knows now. That's good. Stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next live stream. Have a great week. Stay cool, shredders. Spiderhands out. 3, 2,